There's a fascinating shift happening in the world of software and technology, a shift so big that it challenges the very core of how businesses have operated for decades. At the heart of this transformation is vertical AI solutions called agents. And the deep research agent launched by OpenAI and Perplexity is a perfect example of how this transformation is going to reshape everything. Most businesses today rely on multiple different tools to run their organization and then hire multiple different people to manage those tools. But what if a single AI agent could perform the function of all of those different tools and only take one person to manage? Most people today realize that AI agents might replace many of the things they've been used to throughout their entire lives. But very few understand how this is going to happen. In the next 15 minutes, you are not going to be one of those people. This is In the Loop with Jack Houghton. I've been wanting to talk about this for some time because we all know that AI agents might eventually replace much of the things that people are used to, particularly technology companies. And when I say technology companies, I mean software as a service technology, so SaaS. And that's because they typically provide sort of a horizontal general purpose tool that can be used across different industries that basically supports a use case, so sending an email or organizing data. But this means often that a business uses maybe 10, 20, or 100 of these different tools, all integrated together, and even hire functions of people to both manage those tools and manage all the data flowing between them. However, a single vertical AI agent could replace all of that software and maybe require a single person or less to manage them. And this is what we call the verticalization of software. And the latest agents that have been launched by Perplexity and OpenAI make this shift super obvious. For those that don't know, the deep research agent does exactly what it says on the tin. So it conducts really lengthy reports with citations based on a massive amount of research. Now, this obviously sounds relatively similar or simple to what we were used to, but if you go back to, say, old world versus new world, in the old world, you're being now given a problem and say, go and do a really big research report on that. And maybe you're an analyst and in your team, you've got a researcher and a writer. And you now spend days or even weeks going over Google or different sources, trying to understand them, take the relevant parts out of those. You might have to track every reference or the citations. Maybe you add all of that information into a spreadsheet to manage all of those citations. Then you write up a summary of that on a Google Doc, maybe even use an academic journaling paper, and then you email it to people for feedback. But those deep research agents do all of those different workflows and replace all of that requirement for software through a single conversation. Now, the magic of how this works is that a person just thinks they're speaking to a single agent, but actually it's an entire team of agents. So it's called a multi-agent system. And each one of these agents has a very specialized purpose or job description, basically. There's then a boss agent called an orchestrator agent that essentially pulls in all these different agents to do different tasks at the right time. Now, these agents also have something called tools, which are basically a piece of software or an API it can call. So in this example, it will be a web search tool. So the deep research agent, when it's given a single task, it then goes and asks itself, how am I going to execute this task? So that's called chain of thought, and then review its process. It can also iterate and improve once it finds more information. It then might pull in specific agents, such as the researcher agent who has access to that web search tool. When it gets information, maybe it then pulls in the report agent to start writing that report up. So each one of these are like a specialized unit, and Perplexity does much the same thing here. If anybody's been using these agents, you'll probably notice that your workflow and key assets change quite quickly. And hence the topic of this episode, because it obviously threatens the like of Google or other legacy systems outside of just that search context. The user no longer needs to search through blue links and frustrating articles that don't get to the point. These AI research assistants integrate all the functions that you need. So searching, reading, note-taking, summarizing, citations, all into one super simple experience. And if you look at adoption statistics, it kind of tells us a very interesting tale. Gen AI tools have seen huge growth. ChatGPT alone has 400 million monthly active users. Surveys have found that 93% of Gen Z and 80% of younger millennials, so that's 17 to 30-year-olds, just like me, are using at least 2 tools every single week. So for the likes of the Googles and the massive companies, it's a classic innovator's dilemma. So if we think about Google, they make all of their money through ads by people literally clicking on annoying blue links. And the only way for them to now compete is on a different pricing model. Yet about 80% of their revenue comes through just ads alone. And the impact of all these massive tools like, say, ChatGPT providing search experiences and Perplexity and the various other tools that are now popping up is all down to the fact that user behavior has changed. We're now looking to speak to a chatbot for searches and not go through blue links. Initial research has shown that when Google displays an AI-generated overview, so those simple summaries when you search for something, result in people not clicking those blue links. Specifically, it's dropped from 21% to 10%. So, in other words, users are now just finding what they need in the AI summary itself, which obviously threatens the entire Google business model. So in each domain, a vertical AI system replaces not just a single product, but an entire stack of software. Let's have an example. In healthcare, doctors would use multiple different horizontal systems. So they'd use a system for patient medical records and EHR systems. They would have reference databases, decision support software. And now a vertical agent, a health agent, could do all of those things. So it could do reading patients' files, suggesting treatments, ordering treatments, updating records, all through a single conversation. In law, an AI tool like Harvey could read all the contracts, highlight really risky clauses, draft specific terminology and language, and all done in a single workflow. So not needing to rely on all those horizontal systems, such as, Word, emails, contracts, databases, or even manual reading with researchers, analysts, and employees. And at Mindset, we're seeing this happen real time because we actually work with software companies to allow them to launch AI agents into their products quickly. The big players can see this happening. So, a very classical defensive move. Microsoft launched Copilot features into, say, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. And we've seen it happen with Google as well. And I don't know if anybody's used it, but it's rubbish. You're not compelled to use it because, as I've said a few times on different episodes, we're now creating new workflows and new key assets. We're no longer looking to use the similar old assets of the old world. And I think it's more compelling to go all in with a conversational interface and think through what those new assets are going to be. Maybe they're the canvases within ChatGPT. It's the classic innovator's dilemma, because I think the future is a world with no interface and simply just telling an AI what needs to be done, or that AI even generating user interface on the fly. Yet in many ways, SaaS companies today are uniquely positioned to capitalize on AI. They often possess proprietary data sets and lots of information that's quite deep organizational information, maybe Salesforce CRM information or IP and thought leadership and approaches and policies. This allows them to create domain-specific vertical AI agents that, to be honest, outsiders will struggle to match. And I know this because Mindset is really close to that problem. We literally work with SaaS providers to launch AI agents to their customers really quickly inside their product. And with this in mind, I think one likely future is a hybrid model. So that's when horizontal SaaS is going to be kind of augmented by AI copilots and agents. So that familiar SaaS interface may remain, but an AI agent handles much of the behind-the-scenes complexity. So you could even describe this as the agents being kind of intermediaries, so running tasks within existing platforms. So you might still open your kind of, product management software, but instead of clicking through all those lists and menus, you say prioritize and assign tasks for this sprint maybe based on XYZ factors, and then the AI will just handle it via the company's API. So in this world, the SaaS solution endures, but its role shifts from an everyday user tool to more of a kind of AI-assisted backend. However, for me, the most compelling alternative, the one I personally believe in most, is that many SaaS offerings, horizontal SaaS offerings, get completely unbundled by AI solutions. So that means completely replaced by very specialized vertical AI solutions that just meet user needs in a much better way. If an investment analyst could create a report with a single AI agent that means they don't have to use, say, a BI system, Excel, Google, and all the other systems, I think they would. So essentially, these new AI entrants can very easily leapfrog all of these software companies that exist today that have glued themselves into massive stacks with other providers by just doing the job of all of them. And it's conceivable to me that in just a few years, you might not need a CRM. A sales team will just have an AI agent that manages contacts, all the personalized outreach, schedule follow-ups, updates all records manually. And if a person needs to report sales numbers to, say, their boss or their customers or their wherever, the agent might just generate a report and show you it on the fly. So to conclude, I don't think Google is over. Maybe not outright and really quickly, but I think they're going to be facing a moment of reckoning, like many SaaS companies right now. I think if software providers do not make those big bets today, they'll find maybe at the end of their 1, 2, or 3 year contracts that many of their customers have already moved on to other options. Anyway, that was this week's episode of In the Loop. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do subscribe, share it with a friend, and I'll hopefully see you next week.